Yo. All right, let's get started. Welcome to the live, everybody. It's Professor NAMII, but you know I'm not your mother. We're here with another live, and we're going to be talking about the Amarna period. Let me get the light together. I know we're running a little bit late, a little bit off schedule, but you know, everybody has those days. Just stupid thing. Pathetic. I don't want to stay. Bear with me, y'all. Let me light the incense and then we get started. Alrighty, 2 minutes and everybody should be in here yet anyway. Alright. Honestly, this light, let me see right now. Okay, we're gonna get started. Let me just light my incense. Today we're gonna be talking about the Amarna period, Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and everything that has happened since then, and why they're one of the most memorable periods of ancient Kemet. Play this energy, y'all. Alright. They make me laugh. You know why? Because before I started the live, it was really quiet. It was no type of motorcycles, no type of nothing going on. And as soon as I get started, here comes all the motorcycles. Here comes the here it goes. Yeah, I'm not even mad today. Anyways, we're gonna be talking about the Amarna period. Question, Ari. You listening? Pick up the Cheerio. You drop the Cheerios. I need the Cheerios, but she has to make sure. Bring it here. So you guys can see. Okay. What do you think will happen if you living in a country and the ruler decides and forces everyone to change their religion, their beliefs overnight, or they get killed? What would you do? Come closer.
What I would do is I would say, I don't want to be killed, but if it's to change my whole religion and stuff, then I would rather sacrifice it than change myself.
That's not a good idea. Because even though everyone is entitled to their own beliefs, their own free reign, he wasn't lying. How he went about it was the way he wasn't supposed to go about it. And I'm going to get into that later. Back in ancient Kemet, they worshipped multiple gods. They was into polytheism. Royal court people like the visors, pharaoh, the pharaoh's family, they was considered divine, chosen by God. So they was put on a higher pedestal than everyone else. And other people in the civilization often look to them, the royal court, the royal family, as a god of some sort because of their status in society, which is not true, as you can see that today. Anyone is human, you're human. However, some people do have a close source, a close vessel, a close relationship with the divine, where they could communicate with divine and receive messages and help others. That's what the high priestess is. Yes, they can be called gods and goddesses, but are they God? No, they're not the source. And this pharaoh, Akhenaten, changed the whole trajectory of Lower Kemet. He said, I don't like the fact that you guys worship all these people when it's only one true God. So when he became pharaoh early. He had an older half brother, Tutmos II. He died very young, in his teen years. He was supposed to be the one that would take the throne. I'm going to get into it. But what happened was, since he died, he was the next son in line to be the pharaoh. His mother, Queen T, was a remarkable woman. She had a very high royal status in Lower Egypt, and she was married to Tutmosis' father and Akhenaten's father, Amenhotep the third. And before he changed his own name, yes, he renamed himself. Gangster, I know. He named himself Akhenaten, but his real birth name is Amenhotep after his father, the fourth, because his father was the Amenhotep the third. His mother was Queen T, very remarkable, very respected woman. He renamed himself after he became Pharaoh, and he said, "We're going to worship only one God, God of the sun." He calls him Aten. And after he told everyone, I catch you in these temples worshiping Amun-Ra, all these different pharaohs before you, instead of the one divine God, your head will be chopped off. So with that being said, a lot of people was forced to put their beliefs in the back seat, and it caused a lot of secret and hidden animosity within the Lower Egypt, Lower Kemet. And most people didn't even know the secret animosity, the secret beef was there because of how well hidden it was, but a lot of people in the royal court was aware and it was keeping a close eye. Akhenaten built a new capital with his wife, Nefertiti, and his son, Tut. And this period was formerly or now called the Amarna period. However, when they moved from Thebes, he did not want to fix Thebes. That's what he was going to be pharaoh of. Instead, he moved 2 miles north and made the city of Akhenaten, which people today call Amarna. He made palaces, open-air temples, and all types of things that they didn't see in Upper Egypt before, even Thebes. And it was only built within 5 to 15 years. It was very quick compared to the other years it took to build all the other pyramids, temples, and other things. And I feel like now if we take his work and redo it, it will take even lesser time than that. But history has a funny way of repeating itself. He created these palaces, open-air temples, all types of different modern things. And he said, you know what, these is too messed up. I'm not fixing it. What I'm going to do, we're going to move 200 miles up north, and we're going to have a brand new city named after me. He was very narcissistic. But, he definitely transformed a lot of the Kemetic spirituality, such as worshiping one God. And he transformed Kemetic art. If you look at the old statues and stuff I showed you previously, a lot of the statues were made just of stone and just stuck in position. But with the art that Akhenaten introduced to society, we had color and carvings, statues, all types of stuff. And we're going to show you some artwork from that period. Right here is the famous one. It was naturally colored in, but since it got older, I guess the color faded. It's Akhenaten with one of their daughters and another one, his wife Nefertiti. There, you see. Back then, you see how detailed it was? It wasn't like this for other Upper Egypt art. He was very fascinated in getting all the angles corrected and making it more realistic versus it being what everyone else is used to. I want you guys to focus on the carvings of his jewelry. That's very accurate. The shape of his body, the elongation of his head, his crown was different. He was pharaoh. And not only that, he made sure his daughters and Queen T was recognized. And it's funny, yes.
I never got to see his daughter.
I'm not sure if this is his daughter or this Queen T, but they look alike. However, as you can see right here in this photo, his arm was chopped off. a lot of these statues, a lot of these carvings, a lot of these pieces that was in the Amarna period has been destroyed because of the secret animosity they had for the Akhenaten. As you can see, this is Akhenaten and his daughters giving praise to the sun god Aten. That's him and his two daughters praising the sun god. And he also had figurines of him and his elongated head. Studies say that they don't believe his head was this big, but it's a possibility because, again, Nefertiti's tomb to this day has not been found, and Akhenaten's tomb either. So they wasn't able to accurately measure the heads to see if it matched to the photos. Here's another close-up. And here's one of the front of his face. They said the face looks accurate, but the head may not. Back then, you never know because a lot of these heirs to the throne was slightly inbred. They made it with their half brothers and cousins and people they had DNA in common with to preserve the bloodline. It was really disgusting, but it's funny because Akhenaten and his wife Nefertiti was not blood related, and that was something very weird during that time, especially for someone to be queen. However, Nefertiti's father, the piece of shit, we're gonna get into him another day. He was very well known in the royal court. He had a lot of connections in the royal court. So he said, I know your son needs a wife. I have something perfect. He brought his beautiful daughter. It was love at first sight. She became royal great wife after Queen T, and they began their rule. You want to see some more pictures? Some of them say he had alien DNA, Anunnaki DNA, and I believe it because look at that head. You think don't you see the Anunnaki? I see the Anunnaki.
I know, because aliens have big heads. No offense for you aliens, but you kind of do.
And look at that. This is the princess of Amarna. I wonder who that could be.
Let me see.
Still looking the same. This is Nefertiti and Akhenaten's daughter.
With the big, what is it up with the people in the heads?
But yes, there's many other photos as well. All right, but Akhenaten definitely shift a lot of the lower Kemet Amarna period. Let's keep going. He also placed his queen Nefertiti as co-pharaoh, the center of power. And back then, that was taboo. Look, remember the old episode we did yesterday? You saw how they treated Hatshepsut, excuse me. They treated Hatshepsut beneath because she was born a woman, even though she presented herself as male and she did the most great things for the civilization. Because she was born a woman, men did not like it. And after Hatshepsut died, they destroyed most of her things, sort of like how they broke the statue of Akhenaten with his arm. You saw how the arm was cut off the statue? They did things like this out of spite. Yes. And back then, a queen as co-pharaoh was considered taboo. But they knew better. And when I say they knew better, taboo means something that can't happen, something that's not good. But they knew better than to question our authority because they would be fed to the lions expeditiously. Yes.
They were lions?
Yes. Remember, Hatshepsut brought all types of exotic animals from Africa. And that's how we know that Egypt, Kemet,
was not in Africa.
No, they just renamed that land and put all the artifacts that was here in the Americas to that. And why do you think they didn't call that place they call Egypt? Why do you think they don't call it Kemet?
Because Kemet means black man, and they were
black
jealous, and that I felt like they didn't have power.
No, they renamed Kemet as Egypt because they knew that wasn't the original land that all those things originated from. That was here. They moved it and placed it there and lied, renamed everything so people could be confused and people don't remember who they are and where they came from. Kemet, ancient Egypt, was in the Americas. The Nile was the Mississippi River. Hate it or love it, it's the truth. Now, moving along. Like I said, the skulls, they had art was different. They had different skulls, colors, different types of detailed statues, carvings, and yes.
Did they still have drawings?
Yes, but like I said, a lot of the drawings and carvings is destroyed due to jealousy, due to them not liking the new set of rules that he placed on them to worship only one God. He shut down the temples of Amun. He chiseled, took off Amun's name of important monuments, and even made a class of unemployed, disempowered priests and officials who worked at these temples. And I feel like because the priests and officials that worked at these temples that were shut down ultimately led to the people of Amarna, of Kemet, feeling some type of way about Akhenaten's reign. Think about it this way. Let's say, for instance, you were in civilization, you used to have the things a certain way, then a new ruler comes into play. He doesn't want to fix the ruins of the previous civilization. He moves everyone up north. Okay, new land, everything should be good, right? He renames the city to himself, his name, Akhenaten.
That's kind of weird.
It's not Thebes no more, it's Akhenaten. Not only that, he got rid of all the temples that these people, priests and officials worked, making them unemployed. Now everything they was used to, everything they was doing, has got canceled because they have to worship one God, and they shut everything down without asking other people, not considering other people's feelings, ideologies. Yeah.
That's really mean and sad.
Yes.
That's kind of hurtful.
Even though he was right, there was only one divine God.
Yeah.
He could have went about it a different way.
Yeah.
And that is what we want to talk about, how that can be implemented in New Kemet. For New Kemet, we're going to have a standard of encrypted set of rules and expectations. So you know what you're getting yourself into at the door. There will be no overnight changes. Rules will be set initially, and change won't be accepted unless majority of the royal court votes on it. And even after they vote, the pharaoh and the co-pharaoh will make the final say. But the votes and their hearings will be part and put into consideration. And that's something that did not happen in the Amarna period. In the Amarna period, it was only one dictator, Akhenaten, and a co-dictator, Queen Nefertiti. And if you crossed any one of them, they was a strong couple. You crossed any one of them, you will be sent to the lions. That's what I want to change about New Kemet. New Kemet would be more of a democracy. Your voice, especially the royal court and the officials and the people that meet up once a month in all the different rankings, will have a say in the change of the rules and regulations of New Kemet. Question?
And we'll make sure that everyone counts for this.
Exactly. Like I said, the royal court will vote, but Pharaoh and co-pharaoh will have the final say. However, everyone's votes will be considered.
Yeah, and Kemet's gonna be a really nice place. You just have to follow the rules.
And like I said previously, high priestesses are vessels, messengers, a source from the divine. They themselves are not God or the God. There is only one God. And he goes by various names. The divine, most high, Jesus, even though that's what the white people call him. Yahshua, Yahweh. He has many names, but we can all agree he is one God, one creator, one savior, one ruler.
Jesus, their one.
New covenant will be community driven, not a dictatorship. And that is where the Amana period failed to realize. Now let's get back to Akhenaten. That's your fault. Show respect. After he died, he had one son. He had 6 daughters with his wife Queen Nefertiti. 6 daughters. Queen Nefertiti felt inferior because she was not able to produce a son for her husband, except one of his concubines named Kaya. One of his side pieces gave him a son. Queen Nefertiti was thrilled they have an heir to the throne, a new pharaoh. However, King Tut was disabled. Not only was King Tut disabled, born disabled, Queen Nefertiti did not like his mother. Queen Nefertiti believed there should be one wife, one husband. And to see Queen Nefertiti's husband have the one thing she cannot give her husband with another woman, it's natural to feel jealousy. It's natural. You gave me this power, you gave me this name, and the one thing I couldn't give you, you found from a person on the streets. Queen Nefertiti cannot deal with that pain. And one day, I'm not sure what happened, King Tut's biological mother passed on. She was missing. She disappeared. A lot of people thought she was murdered. A lot of people thought she ran away. But she was killed. She was killed. And after she passed on, Queen Nefertiti decided, I will take your son as my son and treat your son as my son, since I was not able to provide you a son, an heir to the throne. So that's what happened. And it's crazy because after Akhenaten died, his successor, his priest, nobles, advisors, and his son King Tut messed up everything he built. They even tried to erase him after King Tut passed away. King Tut passed away in his early 20s because he had a leg condition. He could barely walk straight. He had to carry a cane. Even though he was young, he was born disabled. And he also married his half-sister, Akhenaten. And they became Pharaoh and his queen. However, after Akhenaten passed away, and after Tut passed away, they tried to erase the Amana period. Priests and officials who were unemployed violently tried to erase his statues, his carving, his art. Question. They know. Shh. Shut up, big mouth. Like I said, even though he had a point, I believe in Aten. I believe in one divine God. The way he went about it was the wrong way. He used law, architecture, economics, art to force his beliefs. When, like I said, if he was benevolent, if he had wisdom, he would have turned it more into a democracy versus you're going to do what I say or you're going to die. Yeah, I have some questions for you both before we end the live, some discussion questions to see what you learned. Discussion question number 1. Akhenaten tried to change Egypt's entire religion by himself. Why do you think Egyptians were upset about that?
Because changing their whole way of life is like kind of switching up because they were used to this and they were really in one of
royal family, the viziers in the court, and Queen Nefertiti. Religion in ancient Egypt wasn't a ritual. It was daily life. The ordinary citizen didn't just lose their gods, they lost the temple, economies that provided jobs, charity, and community stability. When one person tries to force a massive shift overnight, it creates immediate counter reaction. People crave stability. If we change everything everyone believes without building a consensus or asking or even trying to hear people out, it creates animosity. The rubber band snap back. All right, another question. After Akhenaten died, people tried to erase him from history. Why do you think and removes his name from every monument and break his statues and carvings? What does that tell you about race history today?
That tells me that they were really mad because of how he.
Not only was they mad, it failed.
Yeah.
Was he erased?
No, we still learn about
We're
him
still
today.
learning about him to this day, I know. But
He's never erased.
he's
So
not
they
erased.
failed.
They failed. How history always has a funny way of being resilient. History has a funny way of being discovered, and history always repeats itself, whether people like to admit it or not. So therefore, their act of aggression, even though it damaged a lot of the beautiful things that Amana period made, created, discovered, monuments can be broken, but the truth of the era of who he did and what he did, his legacy will live on forever. And ever. All right. Next question. Tut became the most famous pharaoh in the world, but only because of his tomb. Does fame come from the things you do or not? What does that teach us?
That teaches is not the things you do, it's how you rule and the things that you do to help others.
Well, not necessarily. Like I said, Tut was following the system of his father, Akhenaten. So even though he was the most famous ruler, he technically didn't contribute as much to Amarna period in Egypt as his father did, because everything was set up for him to rule. Now, after his father passed away, Akhenaten, he had his stepmother, Queen Nefertiti, to help him rule and teach him the ropes so he could continue the legacy of what his father left out. King Tut is the proof it doesn't matter what you do. He was a fragile king. He died very young and accomplished very little politically in compared to people like Ramses, his father. Yet he was a household name to this day. One of the top two pharaohs that people will list. King Tut, King Tut, King Tut, very popular. He's like an influencer of ancient Egypt.
True.
He was very loved. But fame and impact are often accidental. It's not planned. He didn't plan to be the most influential pharaoh. He was just following and doing what was expected of him. Correct? Legacy is about preservation, not just noise, not just action. Yes?
What is preservation?
Things that last over time. Like the pyramids are over 4,000 years old.
What else?
Yes, 3,800 to be exact, but not exact. It's a good round, good estimate. But they built structures to last. Even though a lot of things were destroyed, a lot of things were done purposely. This history and all the people that ruled lives forever. And that's what we need for New Kemet. We don't need anything that's going to fall off in 2 seconds. We need society that will last, rules that will last, infrastructure that will last
Forever.
like these pyramids, like these cities, like these sculptures, like these carvings. That's why pictures won't last forever. But a sculpture, a carving, even if it's broken, even if it's damaged, you still can tell a story years after. Correct?
Yes.
All right, last question. Hatshepsut was one of the most successful pharaohs. But after she died, her name was also removed from monuments. Why do you think powerful women keep trying to get erased from history
Because men were jealous of women, and they feared that they would lose their power.
Yes, you're right. Hatshepsut was a successful pharaoh which secured trade routes that eliminated the middleman from other countries. She was very known for her expedition to Put in Africa. But her erasure started by Thutmose III, her stepson, or his successor. We're not too sure, but it started with him. And it wasn't too, they claim it wasn't through hatred, but that doesn't make any sense.
True. How could you erase? How could you try to erase some history and not be hate?
Exactly.
That makes no sense.
That makes no sense. However, it's a mix of preservation of power, the patriarchy, and societal norms. People don't like what they can't control, and people don't like narratives that doesn't fit into their box. All right. So, one last question, book. How can everything we learned today about Akhenaten and the Amarna period? We got about like 4 days. But we probably won't finish until next Monday. Of the Amarna period. What can we learn? What have we learned?
I learned that it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Like you have to care about what other people say, and you keep on God, but you have to make sure that everyone has a chance. But the last Pharaoh and co-Pharaoh always get the same, and you have to make sure that you always being the kind Pharaoh, and that you should always say, if you don't do what I say, then you should get thrown in the pit.
I like what you said the first time. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And that's the point of why I'm making this video. Was his ideologies wrong? No. How he went about it? Yes. It was wrong.
Totally.
Yeah. He lacked empathy for others, and he did not put the citizens of Kemet's feelings into consideration. He ruled Kemet as a dictatorship, and that was the problem, and that's what created animosity, and that's what led to the rise, not only the rise, but the fall of Amana. Any questions? All right, I hope you guys learned something from this lesson. It's real Professor NAMII, but I'm not your mother. You know that, though. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We're here Monday to Friday teaching you about ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, and what we can do to implement it into new Kemet that's coming very soon. You don't have to believe me. It's going to happen.
And I'm here too, Aubrey.
Once we get the land in the royal court, there's no stopping us.
True.
Anyways, I hope you guys have a blessed day. Have a good one. Stay safe and keep your head up. Enjoy the day. Love
Bye,
y'all.
people.
Peace.